Hey guys, this is Matt Krotz, and in this video we're going to explore some of what's gone into the research and design of Marcus, who's one of the protagonists in this ancient Roman adventure comic called KYRIE. So, Marcellus, or Marcus, I like to think of him as a embodiment of strength without any kind of ability to lead with that strength, if that sort of makes sense. So he's a kind of a gentle giant coward sort of figure, and so that kind of puts him as a foil to Myra more than anyone else right here, because Myra's really a leader without strength in a way, meaning that she gets a lot of things done, she makes a lot of decisions on behalf of the group, but she hardly does any of it without cunning or sleight of hand or manipulating the situation to her advantage, always kind of keeping her cards close. And Marcus, on the other hand, is always trying to be as transparent as possible, or at least in most respects, and when he's not being transparent, it hurts him tremendously. So basically, going back to that gentle giant motif I mentioned, he's got a painful flaw that kind of forces him to try and suppress the giant side to keep himself appearing gentle, if that makes sense. And yeah, and so it just doesn't work, as you can imagine, but it leads to some good storytelling. So he's a scribe and translator in Alexandria, but he also has a military background, which kind of comes out later in the story, but that kind of gave me permission to mix kind of civilian and military motifs into his clothing designs. So I'm going to be showing you some more military armor stuff from the period, because it really overlaps in a lot of ways with what you saw with Tertius, but in other ways it doesn't. But also, I was just kind of like going back through some of what I've been researching over the past couple years, and found a lot of fun stuff that I neglected to show in the Tertius video, so I thought I'd show it off here as well. And yeah, so this is kind of a military uniforms part 2 kind of video. So again, we're talking mid 3rd century, right smack in the middle of that, 250 CE. So by this period, at least with the equestrian military, you've got scale armor to be present. Really everyone's wearing the Caracalla style cloaks. You've got banded leather mixed with cloth, maybe armor across the chest underneath cloth, maybe not. Oftentimes not wearing helmets, oftentimes wearing just a wide variety of helmets, wider variety than you would have seen in previous centuries, or even a few decades previous to this, honestly. Here's a sarcophagus right from the period. I think it's pretty fantastic for reference. See that cloak and banded leather, and in particular you can see this pretty neat way that the military guys wore their belts. They kind of knot it together, let it hang down, loop it back up through on the same side, and then down again. That, my understanding is, that is as common a motif as this cloak is, kind of an indicator that you are of military status, at least have a military background. And, okay, so clothing, textiles, some of these are a little bit more into the 4th century. My understanding is the more elaborate they get, the more, that's kind of an indicator that they are slightly later. But earlier stuff is already anticipating where later textiles are going. The later textiles just kind of get more elaborate, in part because of kind of Persian textiles kind of becoming more and more popular and influential. And there's a lot that really survives from the period. It's pretty incredible, actually. I think most of these are from North Africa, 4th, 5th, 6th century textiles. You can see the same sort of motifs you're seeing in the mosaics showing up in the fabrics themselves, and you're seeing kind of like a basic white and red and green blues or common colors. Pretty neat stuff. And also couldn't help myself, these socks even have survived. Pretty cool. Yeah, and then we've got of course there's always art, trying to illustrators trying to recreate what existed during that time based on the sort of stuff that you were just seeing. As you can already tell from the mosaics and between this video and the Tertius video, the soldiers aren't always, in fact they often aren't walking around entirely as heavily armored as this. A lot of times they can be walking with just their tunic and cloak and pants. That's often depicted in frescoes and mosaics in particular. They might have mail underneath, but oftentimes they didn't appear to. The belt, this kind of style, very popular, and the cloak. So that's always kind of a fair indicator of these guys' professions. And yeah, the guys that recreate this stuff, it's just really incredible. I mean, you can go on Facebook and there's a group in every major city in Europe, it seems, and a lot of these guys are particularly interested in late antiquity, which is great. So you get to see these textiles recreated and brought back to life in a way. You get to see how the real cloth drapes and kind of works on a real figure, which is enormously helpful. And I just couldn't help myself here. It's kind of more late antique armor designs. It's really amazing that they're able to make this stuff and make it feel as believable as you can clearly tell. And so yeah, so really when heavily armored, you're really going with a blend of cloth, leather, and often some type of mail, though often as not there wouldn't be a male present, though of course there wouldn't be for this archer. But yeah, so pretty neat stuff. I hope to draw a lot more soldiers in future chapters, KYRIE, as we go along. And so yeah, so super early here. What I try to do first is just kind of explore faces. I figure I'm going to be focusing on that the most in panels, so I might as well get a feel for how I want to draw them. And that goes for Marcus in particular. Here's me trying to develop him as well. Yeah, so this is me trying to get to know whatever kind of style I'm going to be doing for the comic as much as the research itself. Kind of going along. Got something that's closer to 3rd century helmet there. Maybe some scale, but for the most part, you know, just kind of exploring, pretty loose with accuracy and a pretty broad range of styles, at least for me. Yeah, continuing on, learning more. Yeah, and now here's Marcus' early kind of intermediate designs here. So before research, after research, some amount of research, and also he's wearing a felted cap, which he's gonna put on in later chapters, kind of hidden in his cloak. That is kind of common for the period. Sometimes it'd be made out of animal hide, but more often than not it was felted. And then a little bit more research, figured out the belt, the cloak better, how to wear the hat better, and yeah, and here's kind of that look, pretty much the same in action in a panel. Wrapped legs, which weren't uncommon either. And yeah, oh, and then so we've got here a what Antaeus and Antaeus, the Thunder Brothers, wear as far as a kind of heavy hooded cloak is concerned. This is kind of a common cloak that was like an older design. I mean, you see it from the 1st up through the 3rd centuries, is my understanding, and kind of split down the middle, fastened primarily at the top here. You could sometimes button it down, straight down, and you'd kind of flip one side over your arm if you needed freedom with that arm. And yeah, and then it kind of split again, the same place above for the hood. So yeah, so that's the video. I really appreciate you watching all the way through. Hope you enjoyed it. KYRIE comic updates Mondays and Fridays at KYRIEcomic.com, and follow me by all means on any of these Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I try to post slightly different stuff on all three, depending on what sort of things I think people would want to see, so it's worth checking out. And by all means, contact me. Let me know what you think of KYRIE. Love to hear your thoughts. And that's it. So I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.